Raheem. So what's up? First of all, apologies to all the subscribers on the channel. Been out of town doing some work in Indianapolis, covering a card out there, commentating a card out there, and then Raiders mini camp and OTAs, family during the summer fun with the kids out of school and everything. So it's been a minute, and where we last left off about a week ago, Raheem, was me getting intel and info about Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson and the fight being held up potentially because of weight, and that Zuffa had both, but the fight wasn't finished yet. We'll get to that in a minute. But what you watched, Friends? I didn't. What was it? Rachel and Chandler? Was that
Rachel and Ross? You mean
Rachel and Ross?
The on again, off again love affair?
Right.
America's Sweethearts?
Right.
Yes.
In a trope in sitcoms known as "Will they or won't they?" Is that right, Raheem?
Yes, exactly. That's the OG on again, off again. Will they, won't they? Will they ever actually make it happen and live happily ever after? But we know that if the sitcom comes to that, then the tension is over. That's what we tune in for every week. Is this the week?
Right. So to that point, I think it was a good article by my guy Paul Magno about all of that. Tim Bradley, who I love, released a video during the week. Last week, I think it might have been at this point, about, well, Shakur's ducking Devin, who's ducking Keyshawn, who's ducking, who's not fought any champions at 140. And they're, just this, I don't know. My thing is, look, they're two of the most decorated fighters right now in this era, Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney. It's an extremely high-level fight and thus a high-stakes fight, but I don't give a shit. Either you will fight or you won't fight. And I actually think that sentiment is shared by a lot of people that are just outside the camp of diehard Shakur Stevenson and diehard Devin Haney fans. And it's funny, like Keyshawn Davis, too, in the middle of this glove triangle, as I'll take from our producer at the Porterway podcast. Ryan Hafey came up with that one, right? And Keyshawn gets on about the Haney fight. Devin's scared of me. He'd rather sacrifice pounds of weight than fight his mandatory. And he's like, I'm in your weight class. And it's like, well, you've never actually fought at welterweight. And it makes sense when a fighter's been champion, let's say, of a particular sanctioning body, and in their first venture up to a new weight class, they get instated as the number one contender or the mandatory. But Keyshawn Davis didn't do that because he was the number one contender for Teofimo and then Shakur Stevenson's belt and never captured that title after blowing weight for his WBO title at 135 pounds. So when he keeps saying, I'm in your weight class, you've never actually competed as a welterweight in the welterweight division. And the whole point, and for Shakur Stevenson saying, you just fought Jose Ramirez at 144 pounds not too long ago. Well, that was then, and this is now. And the real whole point of pound for pound, like Terrence Crawford moving up to defeat Canelo Alvarez, is to beat other fighters at their best weight. Alexander Usyk didn't fight Tyson Fury at a catch weight of 200-something pounds in the heavyweight division. He took time. And if Shakur wants to take time moving up to the welterweight division, that's understandable, and that's his stance. But there's no better fight out there right now, probably, than Devin Haney at 147 to prove you are the best fighter in the world. And then for Devin, I like the Keyshawn fight, despite everything I just said about Keyshawn Davis. Jay Prince being, I'm hearing, was the guy that got him instated as the WBO mandatory, which makes sense, because they're with Top Rank, and Top Rank has always, WBO is for what Bob orders, just like PBC has a relationship with the WBA. And anyways, I wish they would if they're going to fight, take a page out of Xander Zayas and Jaron Ennis's playbook, which is just make the fucking fight or don't, instead of it being drawn out and will they or won't they. Like you said, when a sitcom reaches that point, that's usually creative bankruptcy. And yeah, that's, I don't know. It is, yeah. Go ahead.
What is annoying about this that I don't like is the clicking up of fighters. The idea that we're about to play team boxing. or some kind of playoff system to get the big fight, that the fighters themselves try to put another man in front of themselves as they create their own gatekeepers as some kind of prerequisite to get the fight. Listen, the champion is the champion. If you're a champion at 147, I do understand that you can fight at 44. But to me, on principle, if you're challenging the champion and you want to be at 144 pounds, then you be at 144 pounds. One of the benefits of being champion is you own that weight division. If the weight division is from 44 to 47, then you can be wherever on that spectrum you want to be. But the idea that you will dictate to the champion some limitation of weight inside his own weight division where he holds the title, to me is too cute by half, since we're going to keep using these little idioms. That, to me, takes away from the champion being the champion of the division. The champion can be anywhere from 44 to 47. Not a pound over, not a pound under, and you can decide if you want to come in his division and compete. But I understand the rehydration clause, because I believe in weigh-ins on the same day. Since we're long past those days, I don't like this rehydration boiling down to the absolute skinniest, least amount of water in your system you can possibly get to without passing out, just so you can make a weight and blow up 20 pounds the next day. I don't believe in that on principle either. So since we can't get the day of weigh-in, you ought to be able to stay in your weight division in the same class, and then yeah, if Keyshawn wanted a rehydration clause, I could understand that.
Shakur does.
If Shakur wanted a rehydration clause, I could understand that. That you can negotiate. I don't believe you can negotiate inside the weight division how heavy the champion is going to come in on the scales within the framework of the division. The fighters have to now stop getting involved. And see, what you're supposed to do is let Jay Prince do the behind-the-scene maneuvering for the WBO. You let your managers, you let your promoters position you, and you act as if you have nothing to do with that, because you really don't anyway. They're trying to be politician, fighter, manager, promoter. They're trying to negotiate every element of it and then still take the credit for being the pound for pound or the face of boxing or the champion in this division. Fighters fight. Now, of all the sayings that we've used in this show so far, that's the most important one. Fighters fight. Just get to fighting. We have a division champion. And I heard Shakur say that I'm not maybe in that division yet. I can wait on going to 47. That's also a fair position. Devin can't rush you to 47. Yeah, it's a bigger fight than Foster is for Shakur, and it's a bigger fight than Keyshawn is for Devin. And I can understand why Devin wants it, because he's champion. He's bigger, and that he's in that division for sure. And yes, he has advantages to being in that division. And it could be said, if you want the Shakur fight that badly, and Shakur tells you no at 47, and you want it that badly, then see if you can get down to his weight. Okay? But if neither is possible, to me, the answer is not a championship catch weight at 44. Then you got to wait on Shakur to naturally get bigger, or to want that fight enough to actually come to your division. Or you got to want that fight bad enough to think you can get back down to his division. Or you take the fight in front of you with the guy who wants it and is willing to have it, and that is Keyshawn. And that leaves for Shakur Foster. And I think we're happy with that. We're happy with that. And maybe post those fights, that will only make the fight for Shakur and Devin bigger. Maybe after that fight for Shakur, he's then ready to go to 47 legitimately. But for me, if he were to go to 47, make Haney stay down at 44, and that's the weight, Devin's always going to have that little asterisk on it, that little get out of jail free, that little, that excuse if he needs it. I don't like that. I don't like that. Fight at the weight that the champion is at and beat him at his weight, or don't. And nobody, I won't be saying that Shakur is ducking Haney if he doesn't fight at 47, because he isn't in that weight division. And if he ain't ready for that weight division, he doesn't owe Devin Haney a fight to go to that weight division. He does owe Shockey Foster a fight, though. Have that one.
Yeah, and technically, to Keyshawn's point, so does Bill Haney owe Keyshawn Davis a fight, saying they would make it happen earlier this year on the Teofimo Shakur card. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm down for both of those fights being next. Now, to the point about the 144 and rehydration, look, I'm with you. Guys like Steve Kim are with you, too. Like, fights should be done weighing in the same day weigh-ins like the good old days when Sugar Ray Robinson was fighting, etc. But since that cat's been long out of the bag, I don't want a rehydration clause either if the fight happens. You just fight at the... These have been the rules for a long time. And also, a fighter gambles when he takes that risk of putting on 20, 25 pounds the next night. A lot of times when you talk about squeezing down to the lightest weight you possibly can and then rehydrating a bunch as an advantage, there is a risk there that you just overshoot that and you come in very weight drained and sluggish from trying to put those 20 to 25 pounds on, and it catches up with you on fight night. So those rules, as much as we can argue that it should be the way it was, they've been that way for a long time, and I know that doesn't necessarily make it right, but that is the current rules that have been around for a while, and that's the game I want to see it played by, not something in between. And again, it's a risk on the fighter who's trying to game the system that way. It could just as easily backfire on them than it does benefit them. And a lot of great fighters have overcome a 5, 10, 15-pound weight advantage on fight night. And I just want to clear something else up for the people, Raheem, which is I think a lot of people are speculating this is all information fed to me by Bill Haney. I have not spoke to Bill Haney or anybody from Team Haney about this stuff. That is not where my sources have lied with this whole story. And even I'm just telling you guys what I've heard, and they are good sources, but I'm just telling you what I've heard, and even I question, are they both really signed with Zuffa? Because what's taking Zuffa so long to make this announcement? If they're telling me, no, both are, whether the fight happens or not, those are both ironclad, they're locked into Zuffa, then what's taking so long for that to happen? And yeah, Devin Haney has me blocked on social media, so I'm not in the business of carrying water for Devin Haney. I was just reporting what I have been told in the business a week ago. We'll see what happens. I'm with you. Keyshawn and if Devin and Shakur are who they think they are, who they've come a very long way, each at 28 years old, and proving who they believe they are and becoming 4 and 3 division champion, then they are winners bracket fighters. And while their fight projects to be a high level chess match, it doesn't project necessarily to be a quote-unquote great fight. What makes everybody tune into it is the pedigree and how decorated they both are and the high level of skills and speed they both have. So if you're both truly winners bracket fighters, then Keyshawn Davis and Shockey Foster aren't going to get in the way of an eventual summit meeting. They could meet each other in the winners bracket from now. Now, they could fight next. That works too. It is funny how Shakur keeps moving the post. He's like 144 then, let's do it. And then Devin Haney goes, all right, let's do it then. 144. If I come down to 144, do we have a fight? Yes. Okay, actually maybe not. Let me talk to Keyshawn first. And if Keyshawn says we can fight, then we can fight. And that's kind of fun too. Yes, that happened.
Wait. Forgive me. The last thing I saw was what you just said about 44, we got to fight. I thought we were agreeing on 44, which I don't agree with. Of course, neither one of them asked me, but I was objecting to that on principle. I didn't know that then another stipulation had put in place, like Shakur needs Keyshawn's
his blessing. His blessing.
Why?
Well, I think in his eyes, he doesn't want to step on the toes of his friend, who now is mandated, or at least number one contender.
Is he mandated, though?
He's the number one contender.
But that's not the same thing, is it?
No.
Man, come on, guys.
This is what I mean. It's all bullshit. I don't think the people are feeling this, right? But I don't even want to speak for the people. I don't. Are you feeling this?
What? Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what is at play here because we can't ignore the Zuffa element either. If Zuffa has signed both of these fighters, which I don't think they actually have on paper, because if they have, I can't imagine Dana White keeping his powder dry after Zuffa 7 at that press conference, not announcing that he's got Haney and Shakur on paper. Why would Zuffa not take that victory lap? Why would they not shove that in the face of boxing? Why would they not announce that fight themselves if they've got him under contract and they're dictating to the fighters who they're going to fight? Now, the only trick...
And why would Eddie say both of them are signed to Zuffa? Now, here's what they got working in their favor. I don't know if the pride and the ego right now is such for both Devin and Shakur that they would be willing to go back to Eddie Hearn or Bob Arum or any of the traditional promoters.
Here's what might be the trick in it, right? If they are, in fact, committed to Zuffa, but Zuffa doesn't want to be the ones out here making concessions and stipulations on the fight, they've said, work this out between the two of you somewhat publicly.
Welcome to boxing.
So then, what's that?
Welcome to boxing.
Right, so then they can come to Zuffa with the fight terms agreed on Twitter, and Zuffa can say, all right, we're going to put that fight on. Because then it doesn't look like Zuffa is being told what to do by the fighters per se, or has to take ownership of whatever silly stipulations these guys are agreeing to, and they can just take credit for putting on the fight and signing the fighters to having that fight. And if they can't agree, then, again, this is entirely speculation, right? But I'm just trying to make it make sense, as I've been told to do. This is maybe what works for Zuffa. If the fighters are, in this case, willing to work terms out on their own, and if they can make terms that they both agree with, then Zuffa signs them and puts a fight on. And if they don't, then their signing hangs in the balance. If they decide to do what we want and do the Final Four, if you will, if we get Foster and Shakur and Keyshawn and Haney, maybe Zuffa ain't taking all four of them right now. They do those fights and then sign for the big fight between Haney and Shakur. That might make sense. It might make sense, but there's so much in this that isn't necessary. You don't need Keyshawn's permission to fight. You're in no position to dictate to Devin Haney who he's got to fight and win. And if the WBO hasn't actually made Keyshawn the mandatory, then I think they're playing a manipulation game as well. Just putting it out there to see if they can have some influence on the fight or push the fight in their direction. Because I guarantee you the WBO doesn't want Devin vacating and going to Zuffa and Zuffa winning another round against the sanctioning bodies. So there's too much politics at play here. And the fighters are getting involved in the politics instead of worrying about just fighting. Fighting the fights that are in front of them.
Well, all right. So as reported by The Ring by my guy, Hans Themestode. Shout out Hans, New York stand-up. The Ring is reporting that Haney's mandatory is due in August. And Keyshawn Davis is the #1 contender. But I don't know if that means exactly that then his mandatory title defense in August has to come against the #1 contender, Keyshawn Davis. And as complicated as that sounds, people in boxing understand that. And yeah, Devin continues to say, bring on the Keyshawn Davis fight, while still trying to say, well, then I'll go to 144 for Shakur.
But then that would be a voluntary defense, and the WBO would have to allow it? Or
as long as the WBO gets their 3%, he'll be fine.
Huh?
As long as the WBO gets their 3%, they'll be fine.
And since Keyshawn hasn't ever actually fought at welterweight, why is he the #1 contender anyway?
Because he has the right team that got him in that position.
It's too much. It's too much. You see, boxing politics is grimy and ridiculous, and it was well before Zuffa, ages before Zuffa, from the beginning of time before Zuffa came into the game. But anyone who says that at this stage, where it is right now, the way things are playing out, Zuffa is not further complicating the landscape is flat out lying. Like, that's, if you want simple, clean lines and the promises kept, you announce the signing of both fighters and that you have got the fight put together.
Yeah.
You got the fight made.
Well, it would make sense, too, because, okay, so Oscar makes headlines yesterday giving Zuffa a cease and desist letter for trying to tamper with Ryan Garcia to make that Conor Benn fight. Sounds like it's them trying to make the fight while cutting Oscar out of the picture. But Oscar has 2-fight deal left with Ryan Garcia, I believe. So you just can't do that unless you want another Virgil Ortiz on the table. And it's funny that came after a week ago. I reported here on the channel as it pertains to Benavidez and Opataya and Beterbiev and Bivol that Beterbiev was taken off of the Benavidez yard card because Top Rank sent a cease and desist letter to Turkey about having him on that card to Riyadh season, which of course is funding Zuffa's venture. And so that makes me wonder, of course, I think that's part of why, of course, Zuffa wants to push ahead, which is what I was told. They want this fight. They want Shakur and Devin Haney. And that makes sense because Keyshawn is with Top Rank. O'Shaquie Foster is with Top Rank. How's that all going to work out? Especially when Dana is saying these people aren't even his competition, that the NFL and the NBA and all that, that's his competition, which I understand why he'd say that. That's a winning mindset. Okay, whether you now having it in your head and making it an actuality are two different things, but in boxing at least, in UFC he could say that and that makes sense. But yeah, it's how does that come to pass then? If Devin is going to wind up having to fight Keyshawn Davis or get stripped of the title, and Shakur's not coming to the table for a 144-pound fight or a 147-pound fight, let alone that. How's this all going to work, especially if Dana isn't and TKO aren't keen on doing cross-promotional fights? They're just trying to sign everybody and do their own thing. How's that going to shake out?
It's the way you described it in the last show, that it's going to be Ring. And Zuffa is going to get to take credit for the signing, but Ring's going to actually put the fight on. And His Excellency has made a habit of and relationship with the fighters directly. All this time, while he's working with Queensberry, he's working with Matchroom, he's working with Boxer, he's working with Golden Boy, all the promoters that have been drawn into the Riyadh season universe, and their fighters have been getting paid, and major fights have been getting put on, and now they're all on the same network. There is a price to pay for that, and that is that Turkey can go directly to your fighter, because when that phone lights up and it says Turkey on it, they know that is a money bag. They know that he can make the fight that they want happen. And it's very hard to talk to your promoter and the promoter say, well, I can't make that fight, or I can't get you this kind of money, but the guy on the other end of that phone can, and there's a loophole, a side door, where I can do this fight and not break my contract. The only thing that has been broken is the law against tampering. And that means that you and your fighter gotta go to the mattresses about that. And the fighter don't want to have that. They don't want to have that conflict with Turkey. They want the fight and they want the bag. So you as a promoter are then boxed in to kind of be like, okay, I can't really deny you the opportunity to make this money for the fight that you want. And then you get Golden Boy on the step and repeat. You might get a spot on the stage during the press conference, but you're running nothing. You didn't make the fight for your fighter, and you're also not the one securing the bag for your fighter, so you're just a promoter in face only. And that's the game that they're playing, and that's why they're getting these lawsuits from Boxer, and then all of a sudden Boxer gets a DAZN
right,
deal.
Ben Shalom had one too, that's right. Frank and all of them.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
The promoters can't control their fighters when it comes to Turkey and Ring knocking on the door, because they can't offer the fighters what Ring and Turkey can offer them, and that has been the long game that Ring has been playing and Turkey has been plotting all along. whether you can decide whether that's good or bad for boxing or the fighters. It's definitely not great for the promoters in control over their stable. And the other side of that argument is when the promoters did have control over their stable and you couldn't do that, the fighters couldn't get the fights that they wanted because the promoters couldn't work together because the promoters were individually too greedy or on different networks or unwilling to risk the fighter in a tough fight or a 50-50 fight and weren't able to produce the kind of bag that would make the fighter want to risk their O. So there's arguments on both sides, but the game is being unveiled. They can't really hide it anymore. That's what's happening. And every time somebody gets after them, or puts a lawsuit or a cease and desist, or somehow it works out that there's a little concession given to that promoter, a little coin thrown that way, a little something that they need or want thrown in their direction, and then shit gets quiet again, and Ring gets the fight on.
Yeah, the other shoe is dropping on these promoters who are, made their bed in getting into this a couple years ago, and now they're having to lay in it and trying to fight their way out of it a little bit and get out of the bed a little bit or stay in the bed on their own terms, whatever. This metaphor is not going well.
I'll give you the metaphor. You got the Yankee shirt on. You know what it is.
Yep.
Turkey is the capi di tutti capi.
Yeah.
It's the boss of all bosses. These guys got their own families, but when Turkey hits the table, he tells you how it's gonna be. This is you get the garbage, you get the cement industry, you get trucking. This is how it's gonna be.
They're Hyman Roth in Godfather 2. I want everybody to have an equal slice of cake. Enjoy. Okay, but at some point, Barzini wants what Vito has. Okay, so and I think TKO is Turkey's Barzini in the end, even though he thinks that's his number one partner. I think, but anyways, we got to let things play out. In conclusion, for me, to toot our own horn, it is a pretty decent show we have sometimes because I am now at the conclusion of this episode being like, all right, what's gonna happen? Okay, but in conclusion, look, I hope the Knicks win in 5 Saturday. The new Halo, the remake of Halo 1 looks pretty good. I'm excited for Marvel Tokon on PS5. I'm excited for the Zelda Ocarina of Time remake. And my answer to will it be Devin and Shakur, or will it be Devin and Keyshawn, or will it be Shakur and Foster, and what will it happen on Ring? And like you said, everyone will have to sit at the dais under the capo de tutti capi. My answer to all of it is yes, sure, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. What's your answer to everything, Raheem?
Knicks in 6.
Okay.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about with these video games.
I know.
I think that this Haney, Foster, Shakur, Keyshawn, all this is going to play out on these podcasts until somebody plunks down a bag and tells them what it's going to be. They're not going to work it out on their own.
Yeah.
Whoever's paying the money is going to decide where and when we get the fight on. The biggest takeaway, though, that this week has produced, and we must all acknowledge, is that there is now one go-to guy in boxing for the behind-the-scenes whisper campaign, breaking news, rumor mill, understanding what is happening outside of your field of vision as a fan. Sean Zittel is the go-to. He doesn't have one source. He's not being led around by the nose by one agenda. I know for a fact that I can say that from multiple sources on multiple sides of any given story, they come to Sean because he has solidified his bona fides as an independent journalist that will shoot it straight and then give you the proper analysis. I'm along for that ride. I am along for that ride, and there's nobody else in boxing who has the unequivocal ability to claim independence. That is why they come to you, and that is why you're able to break this news and discuss these things. Even if we don't know how it's going to turn out, you can get on this show the lay of the land.
Yeah, that's very nice of you, but not actually true.
It is true. What am I lying about?
Keep following Mike Coppinger. There's like 12 other people that actually get intel and are on the phone daily. This one just kind of came to me.
Independent. Name one of those people that are not associated heavily on one side or another of this equation or attached to an agenda.
Yeah,
I'll wait.
I don't actually regularly get intel. It just happens sporadically. I used to get it all the time, but was always told, but you can't say this. And then would have to watch somebody else break it 2, 3, 4 days later.
That's getting intel.
Yeah, I know, but that was then in the Fight Hype days. These days, it trickles to me here and there. I'm going to have my little spurts, but, and by the way, this is why I really wanted to talk to Shakur, genuinely. Like, that's why I reached out to multiple people from Shakur's team, like, hey, this is not some Shakur's ducking Devin story. This is just what the fuck I've been told, and I genuinely want your side of it because I don't want it to be one-sided at all. To that point, like, my USA sources that told me Terrence and Dana and Nick are going to be at the Nationals last December in Lubbock. I got it 1/3 wrong. Terrence wasn't there. He was in the Russian amateur tournament over there. And, Julie lit me up on Twitter for getting that wrong. So that even with this story, Raheem, I'm worried that some of the intel I told won't come to pass. Like, they're both signed, even though their fight isn't announced yet, let alone them signing it. I'm like, oh, I'm on the hook for that. That might not end well. So I'm just full disclosure here.
Let me help you here, Sean.
Yeah.
Part of getting intel is who's saying what for what reason. If you can say this is coming from this side and they've told me this, you can't say whether it is definitively true or not. That's why they're giving you information, because you don't have that information. But what we can infer from what is being told to us or you, well, that's what the discussion is.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. Right now, we're talking about what everybody is saying and juxtaposing that with what they're doing, and then putting that into context based on what we've seen happen and what we can expect from people based on our experience. That's how you paint this full picture of what could possibly be going on here. And it is a confusing time in boxing, but having these discussions help cut through a lot of the bullshit. I stand by my original comment, sir.